It's the 3 on PLAXtv.
Yeah, it's happening. What's good, y'all? It's your boy PLAX, and I am back with another episode of the 3 on PLAXtv. And in this episode, I am talking about Zach Lavine and the Chicago Bulls. So it seems that Zach Lavine and the Chicago Bulls have both agreed upon being open to a trade for Zach, which, you know, leads me to believe that Chicago is finally buying in to the rebuild. I feel like it's a little early in the season, but they have been trying this for a couple of years, this DeRozan, Lavine, Vucevic lineup. Lonzo Ball, we don't know if or when he's ever coming back. So I think these guys are like, hey, it's time to do something. I believe Lavine's contract is up at the end of this year. I think DeRozan's contract is up at the end of this year. So don't be surprised if DeRozan ends up getting moved at some point too. But regardless of how I feel about the situation, they haven't been playing well. They haven't started the season off well. So they feel like it's time to move. And I think Zach wants to win a championship, or at least be in the best position to win a championship. And right now in Chicago, that's not the case. So I wanted to talk about the top 6 teams, or the top 6 trade destinations for Zach Lavine. Now, not first, this is more like 6. So I'm going to go from my least likely or least favorite spots to my most likely and most favorite spots. It'll vary. I'll give a little bit of detail about it as I go on. But first, I want to start with the Lakers. Now, the reason I said the Lakers is one of the top 6 teams for Zach Lavine to be traded to is, one, because Rob Pelinka let it be known that they were shopping for a third star. He said that like 3 or 4 games ago. Like, it was real early in the season. It's already early in the season, but it was extremely early in the season, and he was already talking about, hey, we're already shopping for a third star. So I feel like, if anybody, the Lakers would probably be one of the top teams at least shooting their shot for Zach Lavine in that situation. And also on top of that, they got the assets, right? They signed a lot of guys. I don't know if they have to wait 90 days for some of those guys, but regardless, they do have the assets. Like, I don't know if they would give up Austin Reeves, but they have Austin Reeves and D'Lo and Gabe Vincent and different guys like that. I don't know what their pick situation is looking like, but it's the Lakers. They'll figure something out to get Zach Lavine, I feel like. As far as fit, I mean, they got LeBron, they got AD. Depending on who they decided to keep in that move, I feel like you just throw Lavine in there. I feel like he would play well with LeBron. I feel like most people would play well with LeBron. And Lavine is more offensive. He wouldn't have to, I'd say he wouldn't have to like get his own shot all the time like he probably has to in Chicago, which he probably wouldn't have had to if Lonzo Ball wasn't going through these injury issues. But unfortunately, that's not how it worked. Just to sidetrack really quick, I do really think if Lonzo would have been healthy and would have been active to play these past couple seasons, I think Chicago would have been better. Would they have won a championship? Probably not, but I think they would have been better, and I don't think we'd be in a situation where they're trying to blow it up if Lonzo would have been playing, because I think they would have been a better team in that situation. Just to have somebody facilitating, somebody playing defense at the guard position, and not just Alex Caruso, you know what I'm saying? But I digress. That was just something that just popped into my head. Yeah, but the Lakers, obviously, most people play well with LeBron. Lavine is a very offensive-heavy player. He isn't the greatest defender, but I don't think it would be too much of a problem with Lavine, LeBron, and AD, and then whoever you put around those guys. I think they would be okay for the most part. And also, Rob Pelinka let it be known they're looking for a third star anyway. So, at 5, I have Dallas, the Dallas Mavericks. I think I've had my opinions on the Dallas Mavericks, right? I feel like even with Kyrie, I just feel like they won't accomplish much. They've started the season off hot, and I think they're going to continue playing well throughout the season. I just don't see much from them, right? And they just added Grant Williams, which was great. They seem to be better. it's just I just don't see much from them. They got better defensively by adding Grant Williams, but they're not a great defensive team. Your two best players don't play defense at all. Um, Kyrie, even if Kyrie has no issues at all, I just don't think him and Luka are enough to make that much of a difference. They're definitely going to be a playoff team. They're definitely going to win games. I just don't know where their ceiling is. I'm not too confident on that. But they have the assets. They have Tim Hardaway Jr. They got some young guys. I believe they have some picks. I think, making a move for Zach Lavine would be great for them. Now, the issue comes where, Luka already has the ball a majority of the time, and then the rest of the time the ball is in Kyrie's hands. So when is Zach going to get the ball? That's the biggest thing in that situation. And then on top of that, you have Luka and Kyrie not playing defense, and then you got Zach coming in there also not playing defense. So let's say you run Kyrie at the 1, Lavine at the 2, Luka at the 3. That's 3 guys, and then what? Grant Williams at the 4. That's 3 out of 4 guys in your starting lineup not playing defense. That's just a bad look, and that almost never works out. And then who's their center? Dwight Powell. He's okay, but he's not the greatest defender in the world, so you're really lacking on the defensive end. And as much as people try to, ignore defense, it's extremely important when you're trying to actually win a championship, because you can score all you want, but if you can't stop other teams that can also score, you're going to be ass out. So, but I think as far as like ramping up their offense, I think him going to Dallas will be good in that sense, because then it's already tough trying to stop Luka and Kyrie. Then you got Zach Lavine out there. It's close to unstoppable. You know what I'm saying? Like Luka running the pick and roll, Zach's open in the corner. Kyrie running the pick and roll, Zach's open in the corner. You see what I'm saying? And it's kind of a similar situation with the Lakers where Zach won't have to ISO as much. Shots will be created for him, whether it be him cutting or standing in the corner or at the wing, anything like that. And he can also play ISO ball when needed. He could even, Zach could play mostly with the second unit. If Kyrie and Luka, are mostly playing with the starters, Zach can start with them, but maybe play majority of his minutes with the second unit, so he can score a lot of points or get his touches the way he would like to. But Dallas, that's not. I could even switch Dallas and the Lakers, because I feel like the Lakers will probably be a little bit better situation for Zach specifically. Dallas just looks good. You know what I'm saying? It would just look cool to have him there, but I don't know how beneficial that would be for the future. I don't know how beneficial that would be for them winning, because they're already in a rough spot. They're winning games, and that's great, but in the grand scheme, when your goal is to win a championship, that doesn't matter. If you win 60 games but get knocked out in the first or second round, does it really matter? I don't know. That's debatable. I don't know. Let me know what you guys think in the comments down below. At 4, a lot of these can flip-flop now that I'm looking at them. But at 4 for right now, I have Miami. Now, I think Miami is a very good situation for Zach Lavine, especially if he's trying to win, because that power of friendship that they got out there in Miami is a motherfucker, ain't it? Those guys, they use the power of friendship, and that shit works. And hopefully Zach could input into that situation and make it even better. And it's the perfect package. You could package up Tyler Hero, Duncan Robinson, and a pick or two, or maybe one of the young guys they just got, and get Zach Lavine, and I don't think you're missing too much of a beat. And, Zach Lavine is better than Tyler Hero. You could even say he's better than Tyler Hero and Duncan Robinson together. You see what I'm saying? So you're getting the same type of 2-guard, just better. You know what I'm saying? And he can play the minutes. He can get buckets. Again, the only difference is he isn't really the greatest defender, but neither is Tyler Hero. I would say Zach Lavine is probably a better defender than Tyler Hero is. So you're just upgrading in every sense of the word. So then you would be running Zach Lavine at the 2, Jimmy Butler at the 3, and Bam at the 4 or 5 at the 5. Bam plays the 5. But you're running those 3 guys along with, the supporting cats. It doesn't really matter as far as supporting cast with Miami, because they always seem to make it work, whether it be G League guys or undrafted guys or second round guys. They always seem to make it work. So I'm not too worried about that. As long as Spo can keep them together, Jimmy can turn into Michael Jordan when the playoffs come, because he always does that. Bam elevates his game when it comes to playoff time. And if Lavine really buys in, and if they even get him to become a defender, that could be very scary. And that could cause a problem for a lot of teams. And that could be the thing that puts them over the hump to not only make it to the finals, but win it all. Now, I understand, like, Miami probably won't make it to the finals this time, but I also understand that we've said that before. There's been times that I and other people have said Miami probably won't even make the playoffs this year, and then they make it to the finals, and then they win a couple games in the finals as well. So I don't know. I think maybe getting Zach Lavine could really, boost them a bit. It could be a consolation prize for losing Dame, and who knows? Maybe they could get another guy, in that trade or in another trade or at the trade deadline. Who knows, right? Because I believe in Miami. They're not going to surprise me this year unless they just completely don't make the playoffs. But as far as like beating good teams or quote unquote better teams, I wouldn't be surprised if they would do that. And if they add Zach Lavine, that should put them in a better position to quote unquote upset and maybe win a championship. Who knows, At 3, yeah, some of these can flip around now that I'm talking, but it's fine. I guess the order doesn't really matter too much. But at 3, I have Zach Lavine going home to Minnesota, the team that drafted him. The reason I say Minnesota mostly is because, one, Anthony Edwards has emerged as a an all-star level guy. He's a great defender. He's a great scorer. Every week he seems like he's improving his scoring, whether it be from 3, getting to the rim, shooting mid ranges. He's posting up now. It's kind of getting scary. He kind of looks like not just in the face. It's kind of like a Jimmy Butler thing, right? He looks like Jordan a little bit, and he's playing like him. And that's scary, right? Because for some reason, the playoffs, Jimmy just locks in and becomes Michael Jordan Jr. And now Anthony Edwards is doing that during the regular season. We haven't really seen it. We haven't seen him in the playoffs yet, really. But who knows? I feel like he'll just ramp it up in the playoffs like Jimmy does. If he's going to be a Jimmy Butler who not only ramps it up in the playoffs, but during the season, that's insanity. And I that's scary. Then, they got Gobert still. They got Cat still. I'm not a huge fan of either of those guys. Cat always had a lot of potential, but now that he's getting older, it's less potential and more like, okay, this is what we're going to get. And Cat is pretty good. Like, his numbers are pretty good. It's just not what I expect from him. I expect more from him, and he's just continuously underachieved. But that's a whole different thing. And then Rudy Gobert, if you guys been watching me, you know how I feel about Rudy Gobert. He's a good defender. He gets a lot of rebounds. He gets more rebounds than I would like to give him credit for. I feel like you throw Zach Lavine into that situation, I feel like that just improves them because now they have another elite scorer. They have a guy, Anthony Edwards is going to be taking the last shots, but you have another guy that can take the last shots down the stretch. When Anthony Edwards is getting doubled, you have someone to kick it out to other than Cat. He can spread the floor some more. They really need more guys to spread the floor. Yes, Zach Lavine goes to the cup a lot, but he's also a really good three-point shooter. And I think that will help Anthony Edwards become a better facilitator. So not only is Zach getting his shots, and again, kind of like with the Lakers and with Dallas, he doesn't have to ISO as much. You're also improving Anthony Edwards even more because now he has somebody to look for in the corner and things like that, or at the wing when he's driving and getting his. And then, I just think they need something else. They've been playing relatively well because Anthony Edwards has just been skyrocketing and improving every day. And Cat and Rudy Gobert so far have been decent pieces around him, even though they need to figure that out because you can't have two bigs clogging the lane. But besides that, for the time being, adding Zach Lavine could really bolster them, and who knows, maybe even take them to the next level. Instead of getting knocked out in the play-in or the first round, maybe they can make it to the second round. I don't know. So maybe Minnesota is probably like one of the last teams. Now I think about it. I think the thing that was getting me when I made the list the most was Zach Lavine going back to Minnesota and teaming up with Cat and Anthony Edwards. That was the biggest thing for me when I first made the list. Now that I'm thinking about it and talking about it, I'm like, nah, that's probably not the greatest, but they still do make the list. Just even if it's just off the strength of Zach Lavine going back to Minnesota and, him and Cat maybe not win a championship, but maybe can do more than what they did when they were together before. And Anthony Edwards is just a way better Andrew Wiggins. So it would just be a new version of that old Minnesota team that everybody thought was going to be great and ended up being not great. What else I got on here? Oh, number 2. I have the New York Knicks. Now, me and my group of friends constantly make fun of the New York Knicks because they constantly underachieve. There's always an issue. Like right now, like Julius Randle previously, he'll play amazing during the season. The playoffs come, he forget how to play basketball. Now with Julius Randle, he's not only, we don't know what he's going to do in the playoffs, but he's playing like shit during the regular season. Maybe he'll improve when the playoffs come, and that's when they'll need him the most. But for right now, if that doesn't happen, he's not only playing shit in the regular season, he's going to play like shit in the playoffs as well. And it's just kind of getting ridiculous. And then RJ Barrett, he's been having a really good season. I will give him credit. But I need to see this throughout the entire season and the playoffs for me to really buy into it. My previous viewpoints of RJ Barrett has always been he's good, he's decent, he's a decent average to above average player. But to me, RJ Barrett is just a great value Andrew Wiggins, and Andrew Wiggins is only good, decent, slightly above average. So if you're a great value version of a guy that's slightly above average, what does that make you? You know what I'm saying? So it's hard for me to give RJ Barrett credit. Maybe that's just something that I just made up in my mind. Let me know if you guys feel the same way about him. It's just hard for me to believe in RJ Barrett. But he's started the season off well, so if he's able to continue that on, hey, I'll shut the fuck up. I'll apologize, But I think them adding Zach Lavine, they would be running Jalen Brunson, Zach Lavine, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson. I think that's an extremely solid team that with Jalen Brunson leading them can really make something happen. And even in this situation, if you want to come off of Julius Randle, right? I don't know if they do or they don't, but if you did, Chicago's in rebuild mode, so I don't think they really necessarily care about what they get. They just want to get picks and assets back. Maybe you can send Julius Randle to Chicago and get Zach Lavine back. You'll probably have to give up some picks and maybe a couple more assets, but who knows? Maybe you can make that happen. And if, Chicago doesn't want to do that, maybe you got to get rid of Quickly and some picks or who else? Josh Hart, DiVincenzo, somebody like that. That you're still in a pretty good spot because you're running, like I said, Jalen Brunson, Zach Lavine, RJ Barrett, Julius Randle, and Mitchell Robinson as your starting 5, and then you would just have to clean up your bench a little bit. And then if you get rid of Julius Randle and get Zach Lavine, now you just need a competent 4, and you're not losing out on any offense because I feel like Zach Lavine will continue to play well, especially in New York. I feel like Zach Lavine in New York is kind of a match made in heaven in a sense. Again, even with being able to keep Julius Randle or not, does that take them over the hump to win a championship? Probably not, but I feel like they play better and I feel like they go further with that lineup than they would with what they have right now, especially with Jalen Brunson running the show. And at number one, now this team I really do believe should be at number one because of how they've started. I feel like Philly is a great spot for Zach Lavine. I feel like you can trade Tobias Harris and a couple picks and get him. And I think that would be a huge upgrade over Tobias Harris, who has historically not done a goddamn thing in Philadelphia. You know what I'm saying? And then maybe in Chicago, Tobias can come into his own, because historically when Tobias is like the third option, the second or third option, he does nothing. He just lays off. He doesn't do anything. So maybe him being, more of a second to 1.5 option with DeRozan, even if you plan on getting rid of DeRozan, him being your number one option, you won't win a championship or anything like that, but, he could probably keep you afloat during this rebuild situation that you're going to find yourself in Chicago at least. And then as far as Zach Lavine and Philly, I just feel like that works out beautifully. Tyrese Maxey is the point guard, and he's shown that he is an elite level scorer at the very least and a decent facilitator. We can thank, I don't give him a lot of credit, but we could probably thank James Harden for that. Just Tyrese Maxey learning from him on how to score and be a facilitator a little bit better and on a consistent basis. Obviously, you got last year's MVP, Joel Embiid, who's going to do his thing every night, whether he's hobbled or not. He's going to make it happen. So you throw Zach Lavine into that mix, you put him at the 2, you put him at the 3. I just think that ramps up what they've already been accomplishing. And they've been, did I say, what am I saying? Accomplishing. There we go. I said it right. Cool. That just ramps up what they've already been doing, and they've started the season off extremely well. Hopefully they can keep it going, but I think a good way to keep it going is throwing Zach Lavine in there, So I will say, my list is a little off. My list is a little off. I would say my top 2 teams legitimately are Philly and Miami, and then everybody else kind of falls under those. But if Philly or Miami are able to make a move for Zach Lavine, I think that'll make a huge difference for both teams. I think Miami specifically, because they kind of they've been okay, right? They're like 500 right now. I feel like it would benefit them more than Philly, because Philly's already playing very well to start the season. But we also got to think about, is that going to last? Is that sustainable? And will that translate into playoff success for them? So Miami getting Zach Lavine maybe would be better for them for the regular season and potentially the playoffs. For Philly, they don't necessarily need him for the regular season, because I feel like they're going to continue to win a lot of games. But they most definitely will probably need him when it comes playoff time. But, yeah, that was my top 6 teams, trade destinations for Zach Lavine. Let me know what you think in the comments down below. Is there a team that you was thinking of that I didn't mention? What do you think of the teams that I did choose? What do you think about Miami and Philly? Do you think those are the best spots? Do you think other teams are the best spots? Just let me know in the comments down below. Comment some other stuff that you would like to hear my opinion on. And most of all, YouTube, I love you guys. Peace out.
It's the 3 on PLAXtv.
Yeah, it's happening.